Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another episode of Exposing Nabi Asli. Today we're exposing this video of Nabi Asli regarding the Banu qurayzah. So let's first see his video and answer his claims.
Prophet Muhammad migrated to Medina in the year of 622 AD. The original name of the city is Yathrib, which was built by the Jews who had been living there for about 1,000 years. There were three major Jewish tribes in Yathrib. The first one was Banu Nadir, with their leader Huyay bin Akhtab. He was the father of Safiya binti Huyay, who later became the wife of the Prophet after the Jewish Khaybar robbery. The second tribe was Banu Qaynuqa. The third one was Banu Qurayzah, with their leader, Ka'b bin Asad. The references of this story were taken from the Life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq, pages 453 to 466. History of Al-Tabari, Volume 8, pages 34 to 36. Go ahead, download these two books from the links below. The Jewish community in Yathrib accepted the Prophet and the Muslims from Mecca as respected guests. They never attacked or forced the Muslims to leave their city. Conflicts happened after Muhammad wanted to force his faith, Islam, on the Jews and their religious leaders. As expected, the Jews rejected Islam, let alone acknowledged Muhammad as a prophet of God. Since then, hatred started to emerge in Muhammad's mind against the Jewish people. Evil Quran verses toward the Jews began to appear in Quran. For example, Quran, Surah Ali Imran verse 85 states that no religion except Islam is accepted by God. Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 33 orders Muslim to kill, beheaded, crucify, torture those who dare to disobey Muhammad. Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 51 orders Muslims not to befriend Jews and Christians. And many more similar verses. Muhammad then attacked the Jews from Banu Nadir and Qaynuqa. After successfully defeating them, he expelled all the people from those two tribes from Medina. The only Jewish tribe left was Banu Qurayzah. The Prophet had been longing to slaughter all of them. But, before that could be done, the Quraysh army from Mecca came to attack the Prophet and Muslim soldiers in Medina. This event was known as the War of the Trench or Khandak War. To prevent the Quraysh army from getting closer to Medina, Muhammad ordered his army to dig a long trench in front of the city. Although there were conflicts between Muhammad and the Jews, the people of Jewish Qurayzah still helped the Muslims by supplying them with war equipment and shovel to dig trenches. But their goodwill did not change the evil plan in Muhammad's mind. To understand the story better, let's follow these illustrations. After the Khandak War was over, Muhammad returned to Medina, to the house of Salama, who was one of his wives.
Salama, prepare some water for me to wash my hair.
Yes, Rasulullah.
While washing hair, Muhammad was thinking,
I better use this opportunity to get rid of the Jewish Banu Qurayzah once and for all.
He quickly met Ali bin Abu Talib.
Ali, Jibril instructed me to attack Banu Qurayzah. Tell the soldiers not to do Asar prayer and march straight to the fort of Banu Qurayzah.
Yes, Rasulullah.
Muhammad rode his donkey, with 3,000 Muslim soldiers marched behind him. When they reached the fort of Banu Qurayzah, they started to besiege it. The Jewish soldiers watched from their fort. Muhammad yelled at them,
You brothers of monkeys, has Allah disgraced you and brought his vengeance upon you?
The Jewish soldiers replied,
Oh, Abul Qasim, you are not a barbarous person, right?
They mocked Muhammad because they thought it would embarrass him with his harsh words. After that, the Muslim soldiers attacked the Jews with archery. But their effort was pointless. A Muslim soldier approaches the fort too close. A Jewish woman cast down a milestone from the fort. The milestone fell on the Muslim and killed him. Muhammad was very angry to see this.
They will pay dearly for this.
The Muslim army continued to besiege the fort for 25 nights.
Inside the fort, the Jews started to feel the pressure.
We have no more food now.
We cannot stay here any longer.
Huyay bin Akhtab, the leader of Jewish Banu Nadir, was in the fort to help his friend Ka'b bin Asad, the leader of Jewish Banu Qurayzah.
It is clear that Muhammad would not leave us until the end of us. It seems that way.
The Jewish people starved and frustrated.
I don't have anything to eat for my children.
I have the same problem.
Ka'b bin Asad said to his people,
O Jews, you can see what has happened to you. I offer you 3 alternatives. Choose which one you please. We will follow Muhammad and accept him as a prophet from Allah, and then your lives, property, women and children will be saved.
We will never abandon the laws of the Torah and never change them for another.
What about if we kill our wives and children and send our men with their swords to fight Muhammad? If we perish, and we shall not leave our children behind us to cause us anxiety.
We cannot kill our children. How can we live when they were all dead?
The last suggestion is we attack Muhammad by surprise tonight. He would think we won't do that because tonight is the Sabbath.
We will not violate the Sabbath.
Not a single man among you from the day of your birth has ever passed a night resolved to do what he knows ought to be done.
Ka'b bin Asad sent a messenger to Muhammad.
Go to Muhammad and ask for Abu Lubaba from Banu Awas.
The Banu Qurayzah were the allies of the Awas. The Jewish man met Muhammad.
Please send us Abu Lubaba, so that we may consult him.
Fine. Send Abu Lubaba to their fort.
Abu Lubaba and the messenger came inside the fort. Jewish women and children went up to him, crying and weeping.
O Abu Lubaba, do you think that we should submit to Muhammad's judgment?
Yes.
Abu Lubaba moved his hand across his throat, signifying that Muhammad planned to slaughter all the Jews. Abu Lubaba left the fort. The Jewish women and their children cried hysterically. The Jews made a proposal to Muhammad.
Tell Muhammad that we are willing to evacuate our territory and move to Adriat with the protection of Banu al-Awas.
But Muhammad rejected the request.
No, you have to abide by my judgment.
When Ka'b heard about this, he knew he had not much option.
We will surrender to Muhammad in the morning.
In the morning, the Jews of Banu Qurayzah surrendered to Muhammad. The Muslim soldiers chained the male Jewish prisoners and kept them in the fort until Muhammad decided their fate. The people of Banu Awas was in good term with Banu Qurayzah, so they asked Muhammad to have mercy on the Jews.
O Messenger of Allah, the Banu Qurayzah people are our allies. They are not allied with the Khazraj tribe. In the past, you forgave the people of Banu Qaynuqa, who were allies of Banu Khazraj.
Will you be satisfied, dear Awas, if one of your people pronounces judgment on them?
Yes, we will be.
Let's ask Sa'ad bin Mu'adh to decide the judgment.
All right.
At that time, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh was dying, almost dead, from being hit by an arrow from the Quraysh army in the Battle of Khandak. The Awas men approached him.
Sa'ad, Rasulullah would like you to meet him.
We all agree that you make judgment for the Banu Qurayzah's fate.
They mounted him on a donkey to meet Muhammad.
Sa'ad, be kind to our Jewish friends, for the Prophet has appointed you to be the judge of their fate.
They didn't seem to know that Sa'ad was a Muslim who hated the Jews. Sa'ad bin Mu'adh met Muhammad.
O Sa'ad, these people have agreed to accept your verdict.
Sa'ad knew that he would die soon, and he wished to take as many unbelievers as possible with him to offer to Allah Almighty.
I judge that their warriors should be killed and their women and children should be taken as captives.
Everybody shocked to hear the verdict. But Muhammad was very happy with Sa'ad's decision.
You have given a judgment similar to Allah's judgment.
Jewish women and children were separated from their husbands and male relatives. The wealth of the Banu Qurayzah, as well as their livestock, was taken out as war booty for the Muslims. The Muslim soldiers threw away Banu Qurayzah's wine and liquors. Long trenches were dug along the marketplace of Medina. About 800 to 900 male Jewish prisoners were divided into groups of 5 or 6 people.
Children who have pubic hair are considered grown up and will be prosecuted as well.
Hadith Sunan Abu Dawud number 4390 explains this event. I was among the captives of Banu Qurayzah. They, the companions, examined us, and those who had begun to grow pubic hair were killed, and those who had not were not killed. I was among those who had not grown hair. Ali, al-Zubair and Muslim soldiers sharpened their swords. Muhammad sat down in front of the trench to watch the execution. The History of Al-Tabari, Volume 8, page 35. The Messenger of God went out into the marketplace of Medina and had trenches dug in it. Then he sent for them and had them beheaded in those trenches. One group of prisoners was taken near the trench. They were forced to kneel down. Ali started to behead their necks. Other Muslim soldiers followed his action. The heads fell into the trench. In the meantime, another group of prisoners was taken near the trench. The Muslim soldiers beheaded them one by one. The Jewish women screamed, crying hysterically. The Muslim soldiers began to drag the boys away, while their mothers tried to restrain them. Children of 10, 11, 12 years old were beheaded as well. A Jewish woman who killed a Muslim soldier with a stone mile was also beheaded.
A Muslim named Thabit ibn Qais tried to save the life of a very old Jewish man named Az-Zabir.
You saved my life in Buwath war. I will ask the Prophet to spare your life.
Thank you, Thabit.
Thabit ibn Qais meet Prophet Muhammad.
O Rasulullah, please spare Az-Zabir's life and his family since he saved mine in Buwath war.
Prophet Muhammad reluctantly agreed to spare Az-Zabir and his family's lives.
Fine, set them free.
Thabit ibn Qais returned to Az-Zabir with the good news.
Rasulullah said that you and your family are pardoned.
But what about my leaders? I prefer to die rather than live without them.
There is no mercy for the Jewish leaders.
Then I ask you, for the sake of the favor I once did for you, to let me join my kinsmen, for by God there is no good in living after them. I will not wait patiently for God to meet my dear ones.
You would rather die now?
I will not wait patiently for God to meet my dear ones.
As you wish then.
So Thabit brought Az-Zabir near the trench.
Fine, set them free.
Huyay bin Khattab, the leader of Banu Nadir, was taken to the execution field. Remember, he was the father of Safiya binti Huyay, who later was forced to become Muhammad's wife after the big robbery of the Jewish Khaybar.
Huyay and the Jewish community came to realization that they had been deceived by Prophet Muhammad, who appointed a dying Muslim to dictate their faith. But it was already too late now.
Then he kneeled near the trench. The Muslim soldier beheaded him. In just one day, between 800 and 900 Jewish male captives were beheaded. The History of Al-Tabari, Volume 8, page 35. They were brought out to him in groups. Among them were the enemy of God, Huyay bin Akhtab, and Ka'b bin Asad, the head of the tribe. They were numbered 600 or 700, the largest estimate says they were between 800 to 900. The affair continued until the Messenger of God had finished with them. After the mass beheadings occurred, Muhammad took 1/5 of the loot of war.
This part is mine.
Prophet Muhammad chose a beautiful Jewish teenager named Rayhana bint Zayd to be his concubine, after he tragically made her a widow by beheading her husband in the trench.
Would you like to marry me?
Nay, leave me in your power, for that will be easier for me and you.
Prophet Muhammad was not happy with Rayhana's preference to be his slave and not wife.
Not only did he annihilate my entire tribe, but now he also expects me to serve him in bed? It's beyond belief.
Divide the rest of the booty among yourself.
Muhammad divided the rest of property, women, and children of Banu Qurayzah among the Muslims.
Let's sell them to make a lot of money.
We will be rich.
Muhammad called Sa'ad ibn Zayd.
Saad, take some of the Jewish women and children and sell them in the slave market in Najd for horses and weapons.
Yes, Rasulullah.
According to Hadith Sunan Abu Dawud 3946, the price of slave at that time was around 800 dirham or $5,000.
By having slaves of 1,000 Jewish women and children, the Muslims gained a lot of wealth from this jihad. Muhammad succeeded in ridding the entire Jewish community of Kanuka, Nadir, Qurayzah from Medina. He also managed to confiscate all their land, property, women and children.
I came here with nothing, but look at what I have now.
This means a guest came and was respected, but he later killed the host, robbed the house, and enslaved his wife and children.
Now Muhammad became a powerful warlord who was feared by many in Arabian Peninsula.
My terror tactics work.
He gave us references from Ibn Ishaq and at-Tabari. Let's see the pages of Ibn Ishaq. Now as we have read the pages we see that he missed a lot due to his hypocrisy. Because these pages are enough to expose him. And as we know at-Tabari is an unaccepted source, let's expose his lies now. I will explain the whole incident with reference on screen. At the advent of Islam there were 3 Jewish tribes that lived in Medina known as the Banu Qaynuqa, Banu al-Nadir, Banu Qurayzah, as well as other Jewish settlements further to the north. As soon as these 3 tribes realized that Islam was being firmly established and gaining power, they adopted an actively hostile attitude, in violation of their own treaty with the Prophet of Islam, S.A. The result of this was the expulsion of 2 of the tribes from Medina, and the execution of the 3rd, the Banu Qurayzah, for reasons that we shall shortly review. It is a common allegation against the Prophet Muhammad, S.A., that this execution was at his say-so, and that he mercilessly massacred hundreds of Jews of the Banu Qurayzah in cold blood. Are they right? Many underlying factors were present prior to this incident. It is surprising that Prophet Muhammad's S.A. name is mentioned in connection with this incident, as he had no say in the eventual outcome of the treason committed by the Jews of Banu Qurayzah. With the migration of the Holy Prophet Muhammad from Mecca, chased as a refugee with his companions into Medina, the nascent Muslim community was brought into direct contact with 3 Jewish tribes, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu al-Nadir, and Banu Qurayzah. At the time of his migration, the idolatrous tribes of Aus and Khazraj, backed by various Jewish tribes, were close to war. The arrival of a third party, independent of these 2 groups, moved the Aus and Khazraj to make Muhammad the leader of Medina, so as to arbitrate between their differences. Thus, his arrival and appointment as head of the city-state averted war. The major task of the Prophet of Islam on entering Medina, therefore, was to establish peace between different religious and ethnic communities in the milieu of a city-state. He achieved this remarkably, beginning with the Constitution of Medina. For us to have a deeper understanding of the events surrounding the Banu Qurayzah, we need to return to the covenant he established between the various tribes of the city, known today as the Constitution of Medina. The Constitution of Medina is a historic document which showcased the rights of all citizens of Medina and laid down the foundations of what a civilized society should look like. It is, in many ways, the earliest blueprint of secularism that we have. The immediate concern of the Prophet Muhammad, S.A., was to establish unity of identity out of the 3 major groups of Medina, the Muslims, the idolaters, and the Jews. The rights of each group on each other were stipulated clearly in this document. Notable passages included: These passages demonstrate important principles in the Muslim-Jewish relationship of the city-state. In total, the Constitution outlined the following general principles which I am displaying on the screen. The document is clear that the Jews and Muslims must support one another as a single community against each other's enemies. The Quraysh are singled out in section 8.3 as a people not to be given protection in any way. It was not long after the success of the Battle of Badr that the Jewish tribes took up a hostile attitude against the Muslims. They repeatedly warned the Muslims that, despite their covenant, they should not become arrogant for having won at Badr. Mirza Bashir Ahmad, quoting Tabari, narrates in his work, Seal of the Prophets Volume 2, that among their taunts was their saying. Their actions did not stop at words. The Banu Qaynuqa were the first to adopt an actively hostile posture against the Muslims. This was to such an extent that the Muslims became fearful of the Prophet Muhammad going out at night, for fear that the Banu Qaynuqa would attempt to assassinate him. Al-Ibafai Tamziaba, Al-Asqalani, Volume 3, pages 425-6. Finally, their hostility culminated in their sexual assault of a Muslim woman, resulting in a street riot between Muslims and Jews. When the Prophet Muhammad rode to the situation, he sought to calm it down, but received only further threats. At this, he rode to the fortress of the Banu Qaynuqa, and before long, had them expelled from the city for repeated violations of their covenant. The condition of the Banu Nadir was not much better. One of their chiefs, Salam bin Mashkam, provided information to Abu Sufyan after the Battle of Badr, on account of which he killed Muslims in a raid. Ahmad, M.B. Seal of the Prophets Volume 2, page 279. Further, they went so far as to attempt an assassination of the Prophet Muhammad. One Jew by the name of Amr bin Yashash attempted to throw a large stone on the Prophet's head as he was resting beside a wall. The consequence of this was that the Prophet Muhammad commanded the Banu Nadir to vacate Medina, for violation of their pact. They eventually succumbed after a siege of their fortress, described in the following words by the Quran. Interestingly, Banu Nadir and Banu Qaynuqa were expelled from Medina and were not given any further punishment. The Holy Prophet, S.A., expelled them from Medina for the sake of social harmony, and once this was achieved, further retribution was deemed unnecessary. The Meccan pagans were continuously sending hostile messages to the idolaters and the Jews, threatening them with war if they did not eject the Muslims and Muhammad from Medina. One such letter sent to the idolaters read as follows. A similar letter was sent by the Meccan pagans to the Jewish tribes after the first battle between the Muslims and the pagan Meccans, the Battle of Badr, which the Muslims won. It stated this. In this letter, the Jews were told that they, being a well-fortified people, could attack the Prophet of Islam. They were warned that if they did not, their Jewish women would be enslaved by the Quraysh. The hatred for Islam and Prophet Muhammad, S.A., with the addition of the great threat from the Quraysh, was the catalyst for the Banu Qurayza to violate their treaty in the most brazen manner. Now we come to the Battle of Trench. Having established the continuous rebellion by the Jewish tribes despite the constitution being in place, we now turn towards the Battle of the Trench, which sheds light upon the treason committed by Banu Qurayza. The Battle of the Trench was a battle in which the Quraysh mustered all their allies and forces, to descend upon the city of Medina with the intention of razing it to the ground and killing all therein. They raised an army of 10,000 against a Muslim community of barely 3,000. In response, to defend the city, the Muslims dug a trench along the exposed portion of the city, against which the Quraysh would approach. The other two approaches to the city were defended by a mountainous region on one side, and the Banu Qurayza on the other. Being in a pact of defense with the Banu Qurayza, the Muslims relied upon them to cover the flank of the city. The Holy Quran speaks about the extremely dangerous conditions of the battle and how vulnerable the Muslims were at the time. The verse of the Quran mentioned shows how the Muslims were surrounded from all sides by the enemy, and only a trench stood in their way to attack Medina. Little did the Muslims know that where an enemy was right at their doorstep, another enemy lay inside and was ready to commit the ultimate treason, thereby risking the lives of the citizens of an entire city. Above you refers to the enemy attacking from the outside, and from below you refers to the enemy within. Instead of defending the city from the flank, the Banu Qurayza discreetly joined hands with the Arabs against the Muslims and were looking to expose that part of the town. If the enemy had succeeded in their plan, the women and children sheltered in that part of the town would have certainly been killed. In these extremely troubling times, only divine help could save the Muslims. And so it proved. Na'im bin Masudi had come to join the war against the Muslims, but in reality was a Muslim in his heart and wanted to find a way to protect them. Na'im was chosen as the liaison between the Qurayza tribe and the Arab tribe, to negotiate the terms of attack and the division of spoils after victory. Using this position, he created uncertainty about the intentions and expectations between both parties. This was a tactical move which disturbed the plan of the enemy and lessened the risk of an attack from the rear of Medina. Na'im first met with the chiefs of Qurayza and reminded them of the risks attached. He then went to the Confederates and pointed out a concern for them. This was enough to cause doubt amongst the different enemy groups, and the uncertainty fell in favor of the Muslims. Because the Confederates did not solely rely on the treason of the Jews to attack the town, they were firm in their attempts to overcome the Muslims. This leads us to the second crucial divine intervention as mentioned in the Quran. The reference in the word, wind, is to the strong cold wind which blew upon the confederated hosts and uprooted their tents and extinguished their fires. This divine intervention caused panic in the enemy ranks and superstition overwhelmed them, causing them to leave the siege overnight. After the dispersing of the Arabs who intended to eliminate Islam, the next and very crucial step was to deal with the treason committed and to identify the reasons behind the broken covenant. The Banu Qurayza had retreated into their forts and were not ashamed of their actions. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sent Ali, may Allah have mercy on him, to speak to the Jews, where he was received with abuse and insults were aimed at Prophet Muhammad and his wives. The leader of the Banu Qurayza put forward 3 proposals as solution to his own people as shown. The Banu Qurayza refused all the proposals and were not ready to accept their war crimes. This led to them to remain in their fortress, unwilling to negotiate. Finally, after tiring from the siege, the chiefs of Banu Qurayza requested for Abu Lubaba, an Ansari chief, a now Muslim converted tribe, friendly to the Jews. They wanted to come to a settlement with Prophet Muhammad. Although Abu Lubaba said that they should make peace with the Prophet Muhammad, at the same time he signaled with a hand across his throat that death appeared inevitable for them. On returning from the Jewish fortress, he realized he had done wrong by signaling in this manner, and was overcome with remorse for suggesting that the Prophet Muhammad would have them executed. So tormented was he by his action that he tied himself to a pillar in the mosque of Medina, stating, "I will not leave this place until God forgives me for what I have done." After 6 days, God revealed forgiveness for Abu Lubaba. It was wrong of him to suggest that death was the only option for the tribe, as he knew the compassion of Prophet Muhammad. Even for those who had sought to kill the Prophet directly, the Banu Nadir, death was not given, and they were expelled instead. It is likely that he would have treated them in the same way as he treated the other Jewish tribes. Following Abu Lubaba's false information, the Jews refused any decision by the Prophet Muhammad, S.A., and requested for one Muslim, Sa'd bin Mu'adh, whom they had good relations with, to decide the appropriate punishment for their crime. Sa'd bin Mu'adh had each of the parties line up outside the fortress of the Banu Qurayza, facing one another. On his horse he came between them and asked the leader of the Banu Qurayza and the Prophet Muhammad to both pledge that they would agree to his decision as final. They both agreed. What happened next is recorded in Sahih Bukhari. In making this judgment, Sa'd explicitly stated that this judgment of his was given not in accordance with the Quran, but in accordance with the judgment of the Torah, the law of the Jews themselves, as recorded in Deuteronomy 20 verse 10. The number of combatants from Banu Qurayza who were killed is not known, different reports point to different numbers. The following research points out many problems with the high numbers presented with regards to this incident. The author also points out other crucial points which infer that the number simply does not match the state and the size of Medina. The number of combatants killed varies and can be disputed, but one thing is for certain is that they were punished for treason and for endangering the lives of the innocent public, and ultimately rejected the judgment of the Holy Prophet. Ultimately, judgment was given by a judge they chose, in accordance with their own teaching. Now we can understand how big liar he is. Let's see what his book teaches to us. And know let's what his prophets did in the Bible. According to the logic of Christians, we need to judge a prophet according to his fruits, meaning his deeds. Let's use this criteria for the biblical prophets. According to Genesis 19:30-38, Lot got drunken and had sex with his daughters. According Genesis 16:1-16 and 21:8-21, Abraham had a concubine. According to 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 3, Solomon, a prophet accepted by you, had 700 wives and 300 concubines. According to 2 Samuel 11:1-12:9, David committed adultery with a woman named Bathsheba. According to Isaiah 20 verses 1-4, Isaiah preached naked for 3 years. Why would God give such commands to a prophet to go naked? According to Genesis 25 verses 22-34, Jacob deceived his brother Esau and his father Isaac. According to Genesis 29:22-30, 34:2, 34:26, 37:20 and 49:4, Jacob killed, raped, lied, and cheated woman. Jacob's first son Reuben was accused by Jacob of sleeping with one of his father's wives. This biblical story does not seem like a family of a prophet of God, but more of a modern-day TV soap opera. Any research into these Bible stories will prove what these stories were exactly: that, fictitious stories written to serve political tribal objectives of the time. According to 2 Samuel 13 verses 11-14, Moses had intercourse with his sister. According to 2 Kings chapter 4 verses 32-35, Elijah sleeps on a kid and keeps his mouth on his mouth to make him alive. According to Matthew chapter 1 verse 5, Jesus is from the lineage of Rahab, who was a prostitute of the prophet Joshua, according to Joshua 2 and Joshua chapter 6 verse 25. Prophets in Bible even kept prostitutes. Wow. According to 2 Samuel chapter 1 verse 26, David, a prophet in Bible, loves a man more than woman, directly promoting homosexuality. According to 1 Samuel chapter 18 verses 25-27, David, in love of a king's daughter, kills 200 innocent Philistines. According to Ezekiel chapter 16 verses 33 and 34, the prophet of God encourages woman to commit adultery and fornication. According to 1 Kings chapter 1-4, David in his old age uses virgin girls to keep himself warm. The biblical David was so lustful that even in his old age he only needed woman. According to Genesis chapter 38 verse 15, Judah, a prophet of Bible, has sex with his daughter thinking she is a prostitute. Tamar disguises herself as a prostitute and has sex with Judah after he abandons her. She becomes pregnant and proves Judah is the father. Judah admits his guilt and Tamar gives birth to twin boys. According to Genesis 35:22 and 49 verses 3 and 4, Reuben, the son of Jacob, sleeps with his father's concubine Bilhah. According to Matthew 21 verse 31, Jesus said that the tax collectors and prostitutes will enter the kingdom of God first, and many more are to come. So hope you enjoyed today's video. I will meet you in the next video. Until then, Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters.
Ya Nabi, salam.